You're giving people too much information about yourself, and it's costing you more than you realize. There's this guy who just got a new job offer. Better pay, better title, exactly what he's been working toward for 2 years. He's excited, can barely contain it. So he tells his coworker at lunch, just casually mentions it, wants to share the good news with someone. And his coworker smiles and congratulates him, seems genuinely happy. But the next day, that coworker is suddenly colder. Meetings get a little more tense. Small comments here and there. Nothing he can quite point to, but the whole dynamic has shifted. And he can't figure out why. All he did was share something good. He was being honest. That instinct to share, to be open, to let people in, it feels natural. It feels like connection. But there's a difference between intimacy and exposure. And most people don't realize they're bleeding information in ways quietly undermine them. Your mind wants to tell people things. It wants to explain yourself, justify your choices, announce your plans. There's this pressure that builds up when you're thinking about something big, and talking about it releases that pressure. It feels good, like you're making it real by saying it out loud. But every time you speak something into existence before it exists, you're doing something strange to yourself. Because here's what happens. When you tell someone about a goal, about something you're planning to do, your brain gets a little hit of satisfaction. It's like you already did the thing just by talking about it. There's research on this. People who announce their intentions feel less motivated to actually follow through. Not because they're lazy, but because the announcement already gave them the reward they were seeking, the validation, the recognition, the sense of having accomplished something. So the actual work becomes less urgent. It's like opening a pressure valve. You had all this energy built to do something, and talking about it lets some of that energy escape. And now you don't have quite enough fuel to actually finish. You see this all the time. Someone announces they're going to write a book, start a business, get in shape, learn a language. They post about it. They make it part of their identity. And then months later, nothing's happened. Because they spent all the momentum on the announcement instead of the work. But it's not just goals. It's about everything. Your plans, goals, your relationships, your money, your private thoughts. There's this assumption in modern life that openness equals authenticity. That if you're not sharing everything, you're somehow being fake or closed off. But that's not how it works. Privacy isn't dishonesty. Privacy is protection. Think about how energy works. If you have a cup of hot coffee and you want to keep it hot, you don't take the lid off. You don't pour a little out every few minutes to show people. You keep it contained. The heat stays concentrated that way. Your internal world is the same. The more you expose it, the more it dissipates. The heat escapes, and you're left with something lukewarm that doesn't serve you anymore. So what should you to yourself? Not everything, obviously, but more than you probably are right now. Your next move, for one, whatever you're planning to do next, whatever change you're trying to make, keep it quiet until it's already in motion. Don't announce it. Don't seek permission or validation. Just do it and let people notice on their own. Because when you tell people what you're about to do, you invite their opinions, their doubts, their projections, their own limitations onto you. And even if they mean well, that stuff gets in your head. It creates resistance where there didn't need to be any. Plus, people remember what you say more than you think they do. You mention you're thinking about quitting your job, and 6 months later, when you're still there, someone asks about it. And now you have to explain why you didn't do it. And that explanation becomes a story you tell yourself about why you're stuck. It solidifies the inaction. Better to just not create that dynamic in the first place. Your struggles too, not the ones that need support, not the genuine crises where you need help. But the everyday frustrations, the small failures, the moments where you feel weak or uncertain, those don't need to be broadcast. Because when you constantly share your problems, people start to see you as your problems. You become the person who's always struggling, always overwhelmed, always in some kind of crisis. And even if that's not true most of the time, that's the impression that sticks. There's also this thing where talking about problems makes them feel bigger. You ever notice that? Something bothers you, but it's manageable. Then you vent about it to a friend, and suddenly it feels worse than it did before. That's not just in your head. When you put something into words, especially emotional complaints, you're rehearsing that narrative. You're strengthening the neural pathway that says this is a big deal, this is overwhelming, this is unfair. And the more you rehearse it, the more real it becomes. Sometimes the best thing with a problem is just sit with it quietly and let it resolve on its own. Most problems do, if you give them time and don't feed them with attention. Your good deeds, definitely keep those to yourself. When you do something kind, something generous, something that helps someone else, there's this temptation to mention it. Not in a bragging way, but just casually. Let it slip. Make sure people know you're a good person. But the second you do that, act changes. It's no longer about the person you helped. It's about your image. And deep down, you know that, and it cheapens the whole thing. There's a reason every wisdom tradition talks about this. Do good quietly. Let your actions speak. Don't announce your virtue, because virtue that needs announcement isn't virtue, it's performance. And people can sense the difference even if they can't articulate it. Income and your money situational. This one's big. The moment you tell someone how much you make, or how much you paid, or how much you have saved, you've changed the relationship. May they make less, and now they feel bad. Maybe they make more, and now they see you differently. Maybe they start asking for money, or expecting you to pay for things. Or maybe they just start treating you like a category instead of a person. Money, one of those topics with basically no upside to transparency. The people who need to know already know. Everyone else is just collecting information they'll use to form opinions about you. And those opinions won't help you. Next level of ambition. People can handle you being successful up to a point, but if you're aiming for something that's significantly beyond where you are now, beyond where they are, beyond what think is realistic, they're going to resist it. Not out of malice usually, just out of their own fear. Your ambition reminds them of their own limitations, and that's uncomfortable. So they'll find ways to talk you down, to make it seem unrealistic, to point out all the reasons it won't work. And they'll do it while smiling, while meaning well, while thinking they're protecting you from disappointment. Better just keep that vision to yourself. Build it quietly. Let them be surprised when you arrive. Your personal philosophy and beliefs about life, unless someone specifically asks and genuinely wants to know. Your deeper thoughts about existence and meaning and how the world works. Those are probably kept internal, because most people aren't looking for genuine exchange on that level. They're looking for agreement, and when you share something you really believe, something that matters to you, and the other purses it or argues with it, or just clearly doesn't get it, that hurts more than you'd expect. It feels like rejection of something core to who you are, and it is kind of. So why create that situation? Why expose something precious to casual criticism? Save those conversations for the very few people who have earned access to that part of you. The details of your romantic relationship. This is tricky because people love to talk about their relationships, and sometimes it's healthy to process things with friends. But there's a line. Every time you share something private about your partner, every time you complain about them, or reveal something intimate, or make them the subject of a funny story, you're betraying a small trust. And those small betrayals add up. Your relationship is a closed system. It works best when the energy stays inside it. When you start exporting your partner's flaws to other people, those people form opinions, and those opinions become part of the environment your relationship exists in. Plus, when things are good again, which they usually are after a fight or rough patch, your friends still remember what you told them. They're still seeing your partner through that lens. You got over it, but they didn't. And now there's this weird distance or judgment that didn't need to be there. What all of these have in common is that they're about preserving your internal power. Every time you share something before it's ready, every time you expose something that didn't need to be exposed, you're giving away a piece of your autonomy. You're inviting the outside world to your decision-making process. And the outside world doesn't have your best interests at heart, even when it thinks it does. Because people project. They take their own fears and failures, and they map them onto you. And they do it automatically, without realizing it. So when you tell someone you're thinking about making a big change, they're not really responding to you. They're responding to their own anxiety about change. When you tell someone about your success, they're not really responding to your accomplishment. They're responding to their own feelings about where they are in life. None of this is conscious or malicious. It's just how humans work. We can't help but filter other people's experiences through our own. Which means that most feedback you get, most reactions you get, aren't actually about you. They're about the other person. And taking that too seriously, letting that shape your choices, is just letting other people's limitations become your limitations. Silence isn't secrecy in a sneaky way. It's just boundaries. It's recognizing that not everything needs to be shared to be real. In fact, some things stay more real when they're kept private. They maintain their power. They stay yours. And there's something else too. When you stop over-explaining yourself, stop sharing every plan and thought and struggle, people start respecting you more, not less, because mystery creates interest. Restraint creates respect. Someone who doesn't need to broadcast everything, who can hold their own counsel, who moves quietly and purposefully. That person seems more substantial somehow, more solid. It's counterintuitive because we're taught that connection requires disclosure. But real connection doesn't come from telling people everything. It comes from being fully present with what you choose to share. Quality over quantity. Depth over breadth. Maybe the things worth keeping to yourself aren't secrets at all. Maybe they're just the parts of your life that work better in silence. The seeds that need darkness to grow.